Welcome to the Sheetloom Patient Audit Write-Back demonstration. This short demo shows how Sheetloom can build a repeatable data workflow and how Sheetloom functionality can be integrated within an existing website or portal. In this case, we set up a sample landing page to illustrate how a web app can pass through into Sheetloom. Sheetloom can easily be added to provide a solution to a business problem. In this example, we've been asked by our operation team at the NorthStar medical practice to automate a delayed discharge audit report for Everglade, a NorthStar partner who use Sheetloom. Behind the scenes, we're using Sheetloom plus a Postgres database to run a version of this audit process. The NorthStar demo database consists of approximately 50 partners, 200 hospitals, and 100,000 transactions. Relatively small, but not trivial, and it could easily scale to millions of records. We're doing a representative demo here using Postgres, a widely used SQL database. So we'll have a look at the database. The database contains the patient data and the patient audit data for each hospital. This is an excerpt of the patient audit table, specifically using the Woodward Community Hospital, which we'll be using for this demo. As part of this demo, we'll be changing some of the values in these first two rows, specifically these barriers for discharge, and we'll add a comment saying that the rows need review. And we'll update the data using Sheetloom's write-back functionality. Woodward is a small hospital and part of the Everglade group. The Everglade group undertakes regular delayed discharge audits for all their hospitals so they can work out their patient flow KPIs, to understand where the blockages are within their groups, free up bed capacity, work out where new patients can be seen, and improve revenue. Woodward Community Hospital has several wards, and one person has been given the responsibility of updating the audit, so that person needs to collect it from all the wards. Another option is to delegate the data collection directly to each ward or unit. So there may be many people involved in the process, but we'll keep the scenario simple. We're going to use Sheetloom to select the data into a managed spreadsheet, enable users to update records using Excel, and then use Sheetloom's write-back functionality to update the database. So next we'll jump into the delayed discharge audit portal, which will bring us into Sheetloom. The portal can be customized with corporate branding, colors, logos, and other design elements, and can be accessed from links on a landing page like the one you just saw. It's also important to note that Sheetloom is installed inside a corporate tenant, so the data stays within the corporate environment. It's not a public SaaS application. So go ahead and log in, and then we'll take a look at the Sheetloom template that the design team has provided for the audit. From here, we can see the published spreadsheet templates that users can work with. In this patient delayed discharge audit scenario, the administrator is responsible for setting up and maintaining the spreadsheet template. That includes making any data or column changes from version to version and setting up any reference data the spreadsheet uses as lookup values. So we'll go ahead and download the latest version of this spreadsheet. The template can be as elaborate as the administrator wants, depending on the process. For example, fields can be set to mandatory, optional, or read-only. In this template, we've highlighted the editable fields in yellow. We also have a column for adding comments, which we can use to identify rows which need further review, and a toggle for row deletion. The template is populated using stitches, which each correspond to a query within Sheetloom. The name range here is named after one of these stitches, NorthStar.audit, and if we go into our pattern manager in Sheetloom, we can view the query that populates this spreadsheet by finding that pattern and stitch name. So NorthStar.audit. And this is the query that populates the spreadsheet. An important element of this is that the queries that populate the spreadsheets with data can include role-based query parameters. So when a user populates the spreadsheet from the database, they only see their own data. For example, their facility or the healthcare service they're associated with. We're defining that here using the hospital name the user is associated with. Once the administrator is happy with the template, they can upload it into Sheetloom for the user community to use. Instead of a user manually copying and pasting thousands of rows of clinical data every single month, or every time an audit is required, and risking breaking the formatting or the formulas, Sheetloom automatically weaves the data directly into this template. Now, as a user, I'll go ahead and download the spreadsheet to work on. As mentioned, Sheetloom can enforce role-based authentication to personalize each spreadsheet. meaning all database queries can be parameterized by the current user's role or position within the organization. So here, we're getting Woodward Community Hospital as the hospital because that is the user that I'm associated with. Sheetloom weaves the spreadsheet by running the queries defined by the stitches and populating the sheet with the results. A sheet can have multiple stitches. Sheetloom will populate the sheet with the results of each query. And when we're done, we'll get a notification to download their sheet and we can begin our audit process. All right, and here's a download notification. So we'll go ahead and download that and open it up. Here's the populated patient delayed discharge audit spreadsheet. For a typical audit, the clinician user would update the details for each patient who met these original criteria, something along the lines of selecting all the patients in the Woodward Community Hospital who have been ready for discharge for at least the past 30 days but have not yet been discharged. The clinician would review each patient record and update the delay discharge reasons, any other editable fields that needed updating, and possibly adding comments for further review or additional context. For brevity, we'll just update a couple of the patient records to see the process in action. We'll do it as mentioned for the first two patients here. We'll update our barriers for discharge. We'll update them to legal decisions. Do that for both. And we'll add a comment under both that says need review. Needs review. Needs review. Fantastic. Once we've done that, I'll save that again. And we can begin the process to write this data back into the database. So save as into our demo directory for ease of use. The write back process is simple. Once we've changed the values in the spreadsheet and we've saved it, we can upload the updated spreadsheet back into Sheetloom. So in Sheetloom, we'll go into our spreadsheet, our generated spreadsheets area. Select our healthcare patient audit data and click upload. So we'll upload our changed version. Here we are. At this point, there are two workflow choices. The user can either immediately choose the write back option, or the administrator can check the uploaded content from each user, accept the data as it is, or work with the users to fix any issues, and then eventually choose the write back option. In a typical workflow, once users have finished updating their spreadsheets, they'll upload them for the administrator to do final QA. If it passes QA, the administrator then uses the write back button to write back the updates to the source Postgres database, applying the changes that we've made. In this instance, we'll go ahead and trigger the write back ourselves now. So we'll go here and click write back. Once the write back is actioned, Sheetloom will process the records and update the fields in the original table with all the patient status changes to complete the audit data collection. This will write the corrected audit data back into the source Postgres database. There we are. And once that's complete, we can confirm the change by viewing the source data again. So we'll bring up dbeaver, rerun our query, and we can see our barriers for discharge has been updated to legal decision for our first two patients, as well as our needs review comment. Fantastic. Once all audits have been uploaded and updates written back, the patient delayed discharge audit reporting can then be done by ward, hospital, or by the entire Everglade group, giving hospital managers and executives up-to-date visibility on bottleneck areas. And that's a simple example of how Sheetloom eliminates manual data entry, protects your spreadsheet design, and gives you a repeatable, reliable business workflow every single time. Thank you very much for watching.